Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inauguration Day 2022. My name is Makhi Ettienne-Modeste, your new kid governor. It is my honor to welcome our in-person and online viewers to our educational program, Meet the Three Branches of State Government. We are coming to you live from Connecticut's Old State House in Hartford, home of the Kid Governor program. The Old State House is a historical state capitol building built 226 years ago. It once had all the three branches of state government working under its roof. Today, it is a museum that attracts students and visitors from all over the world who want to learn about the history of the building and how it was used when it was a capital. When you visit, you can even explore the governor's office from the 1800s, which is now my office as kid governor. Today's Meet the Three Branches of State Government program is a really cool opportunity to learn about the three branches of government right from the people who work in them. In the place where our government once met. Fifth graders, we have three officials from Connecticut state government who have taken time out of their busy schedules to answer your questions. They are going to talk about their roles and responsibilities and give you a first-hand explanation of how the three branches work. Before we start asking our questions, I will start by introducing our special guests. I'd like our guests to wave hello to the audience as I introduce them. First, First is Connecticut's Attorney General William Tong. Attorney General Tong is our state's lawyer and works as the executive branch. He is one of the six constitutional officers who work together to enforce the state's laws. Please join me in a round of applause to welcome Attorney General Tong. Next is State Representative Tami Zawistowski. She represents the towns of Suffield, East Granby, and my town of Windsor in the Connecticut General Assembly, which is another name for the legislative branch. As a member of the legislative branch, Representative Zawistowski writes, debates, and works to pass laws in our state government. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Representative Zawistowski. Our third guest is Judge Dennis Eveleigh, who is representing the judicial branch. He is a former justice of the Connecticut Supreme Court, the highest court in our state government. The judicial court interprets laws and helps people settle disputes through court cases. Please join me in welcoming former Supreme Court Justice Dennis Eveleigh. Thank you to our three special guests for being here today to talk with the fifth graders of Connecticut. Classes around Connecticut submitted their questions about the three branches of government for today's program. We are going to get to as many of them as we can. The six members of my cabinet will and I will take turns coming up to the podium to ask a question. Our questions may be for one Pacific. Oh, I'm struggling over here. Pacific. Pacific. Branch of government, or for all three branches. We have some great questions today, so let's get started. Is everybody ready? I will ask our first question. It was submitted by fifth graders in Manchester. Their question is about the executive branch and is for Attorney General Tong. They asked, "What does the Attorney General do?"
That's a big question. What does the Attorney General not do? Is a better question. So can you all hear me, by the way? I'm going to leave my mask on to be safe. But I'm the state's lawyer. So what that means is I represent the state and state officials acting in their official capacity. I represent the legislature. I even represent the judicial branch in legal matters. And that's my basic everyday responsibility. On top of that, I protect all of Connecticut's families and children and people from any number of threats and risks that we face, everything from the effects of climate change, for example, and protecting our environment. Right now, I'm conducting an investigation of Instagram, Meta, and Facebook to protect all of you, fifth graders especially, from threats from social media. I'm also leading an investigation against Juul for their role in the epidemic of youth vaping. And what you may have read about, if you see occasionally in the paper or on television, our work in confronting the opioid and addiction crisis. So we do a lot of work there to protect all of you and your families. So that's a short summary of what the Attorney General does every single day.
Thank you very much. Cabinet Member Bryan will ask our next question.
Our next question is about the judicial branch, and it's for Judge Eveleigh. It was submitted by Noah Webster, Micro Society Magnet School in Hartford. They all asked, how do you become a judge?
Thank you. The governor has appointed a judicial selection commission. And to become a judge, you have to make application to that commission. You fill out an application form, and then you go for an interview. After that point, if you're selected by the commission, and I think their percentage is usually around 10% of those who apply, you go on a list. Now, the governor doesn't have to appoint everyone on the list, but when he or she makes an appointment, that person must have passed judicial selection and be on that list. And then the governor will go through a Judiciary Committee, and then ultimately be voted upon by the General Assembly. And if you're approved by everyone, by the General Assembly, then you become a judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cabinet Member Elizabeth will ask our next question.
The students at Oswegatchie Elementary School in Waterford submitted our next question. It is for Representative Zawistowski and is about the legislative branch. They asked, how do you get the ideas to form bills and make them into laws?
Thank you for that question. As far as getting ideas in order to start laws, we listen to our constituents. There are 187 legislators, 36 in the Senate and 151 in the House. And we all represent different groups of people geographically. And a lot of times our ideas are to solve a problem, number one. I mean, that's my feeling is that we shouldn't really introduce laws unless it solves a problem. But also other people have ideas about situations in which they think that we could be doing better. We could be doing better government. So they will actually talk to their representatives and their senators and tell us what they think is an issue for them. We take it through the whole committee process. We're set up with committees, and we go through to see what this bill will do if it passes, and we also make sure that it doesn't hurt other people. Every bill that we pass does have unintended consequences, and we need to make sure that we protect people that might be damaged by those bills as well. It's a long process, and it's very participatory. If you have something that you are interested in seeing as a law, or at least being considered, that's something that you should talk to your representative about or your senator, and they will talk to you. But that's how it all starts, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Madelyn will ask our next question.
Our next question comes from the fifth graders of Suffield, and it is for all three of our guests. The students ask, what is your favorite part of your job?
I will do, since I represent Suffield, I will take this. And I do want to make a shout out to the fifth grade at McAllister School, who is probably watching this right now. I went and spoke to them while they were going through their election process, and great group of people. Anyway, the favorite part of my job is dealing with constituents, seeing if there's something that I can help them with in the whole dealing with the state government. There are times it's difficult to get through to some of our agencies, or some things don't fit the template of what these agencies do, and sometimes you just have to be able to work with people in order to solve their problems. So I'm a problem-solving person, and that's really the favorite part of what I do. And thank you again to the fifth graders at Suffield.
You can go.
Okay. I have to echo my former colleague in the legislature, Representative Zawistowski. I love solving problems. Being Attorney General gives you an opportunity to try to solve problems. We're not always successful. Sometimes there's too many problems that walk through my door. But, and problems large and small. So for example, during the pandemic, we advised the governor every single day and the legislature on what they can do to protect people and keep them safe and protect public health. One of the things that we do is protect Connecticut residents and enforce our state laws when all of you and your families are being abused by other people. For example, when local stores and retailers may charge you more than they should charge you for hand sanitizer or masks. That may qualify as price gouging, which is illegal under Connecticut law, and I can't say I enjoy it, but it is rewarding to help people, to protect them from those risks and those harms. And then we get to try to solve bigger problems. So the now almost 40-year landmark desegregation case in our state is a case called Sheff versus O'Neill. That's something that all of us know about, and especially Justice Eveleigh and members of the judicial branch are very familiar with that litigation. That's to try to solve the long-term systemic effects of systemic racism, frankly, in our education system, and to combat a legacy of segregation that still affects us to this day here in our state in the Hartford region. And I get to work on that case to try to bring that to conclusion and make sure that all fifth graders and all of your peers in all grades and ages have access to a quality education wherever you go to school. So that's what I love about my job.
Thank you for that question. I would say, I'm now a judge about 24 years. I've sat in just about every discipline that the judiciary has. And for 5 years, I sat in juvenile court, and that's where it really just made such an impression on me. The feeling that you got a feeling you're really helping people. And you could craft different opinions that would help keep families together. Sometimes it didn't always work out, but that was the goal. And now I'm in the appellate system still, and you kind of see these cases coming to you. But I think it's this feeling that you're trying to help and that you feel you're a help to people. There are some cases there haven't been any decisions on, so you're trying to craft something new. So you might look to other states to do it. But it's this feeling that you are helping, and really it's the greatest job I've ever had. And basically I love everything about it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Cabinet Member Olivia has our next question.
The next question comes from the fifth graders at Charter Oak International Academy in West Hartford. It is for Judge Eveleigh about the judicial branch. They want to know, how do you ensure that you are impartial and fair with your decision making?
Thank you. That's a great question. First of all, whenever we get a case, the first thing we do is review that case. The lawyers involved, the parties involved, sometimes even the issues involved. And obviously, if you know anyone, or you're not just know anyone, but you're close to them, you disqualify yourself from the case. Also, if there's an issue you might have spoken out about or you feel very strongly about, you might not be the best one to be impartial on that case, so we will recuse ourselves, not hear the case. So you really, before you ever get into a case, that's the first thing you do. Is there a disqualification of some sort that you have to think about? Even the attorneys, is it an attorney you socialize with? Certainly the other side wouldn't like to see you out to dinner with an attorney that they were hearing their case on. So if it's someone you're really close with as an attorney, obviously a former partner or someone like that, then you disqualify yourself. But that's really the first issue you have on every case. So thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Samantha has our next question.
The fifth graders at Shepherd Glen Elementary School in Hamden submitted our next question. It is about the effective branch and is for Attorney General Tong. The students asked, what is the most challenging part of your job?
Good question. I think one of the most challenging parts of our job is that in this world today, there are a lot of harms and risks and threats that we face for which there aren't a lot of good answers. So, for example, when the pandemic started, if you all remember, back when February, March of 2020, nobody really knew how to handle this situation. There wasn't a playbook. And what's most frustrating for me is when people insist that there are right answers and wrong answers. And if you think about it, there really aren't right answers and wrong answers in most instances. You do the best you can. You do the best you can in accordance with the law, based on the evidence and the facts that you have before you. But there was no playbook. And as a lawyer who works with the legislature and judges, some people think that there's black and white, there's right and there's wrong, and that if you just go into a courtroom, for example, Judge, you know what I'm talking about, people, because they believe their position is the correct one, they think you just type in the coordinates in like the judge's computer and the answer comes out. But that's not how it happens, right? We have judges because we rely on Judge Eveleigh's judgment and experience and understanding to analyze a situation and make the best decision that he can make based on his human experience and knowledge. And so I think the hardest thing is just for people to understand that we're all doing the best that we can. And in most cases, the most difficult questions, on the pandemic, on social media, on climate change. There aren't clear answers, and we're just trying to do the best we can.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Sotvik has our next question.
Students at O'Connell Elementary School in East Hartford submitted a question for Representative Zawistowski about the legislative branch. Their question is, how can students share their ideas with the state government to help make changes in their community?
Thank you. That's probably the easiest question that somebody could ask at this point. If you're a student and have some ideas, you should contact your representative, your senator. And if it's something that can go forward as a possible bill, you are certainly welcome to come in and testify, or not necessarily come in, or testify by Zoom. We don't know if we're going to be going into the Capitol yet this year by Zoom or into the legislative office building for our committees. We don't know if it's going to be by Zoom or in person for the hearings, but either way, you have the opportunity to be able to participate in the process, to advocate for your position, either by Zoom, by showing up, or else in email. So this is, you can help your legislator do this, because if we do introduce something on your behalf, we do hope that you're there to be able to firm up your position and to be able to assist in the process. Because usually somebody who has an idea about a bill has probably the most passion for it, and we need to hear that. The legislature needs to hear that. So that's really the best way. Contact your senator or representative, and we'll see what we can do. We're starting our legislative session on February 9th this year, coming up very shortly. So if you have ideas, you need to act fast. It's a short session year, which means that we're really limited to a lot of the bills that have to do with the budget. But that doesn't mean that we can't recommend to the committee some ideas that you might have. And I will just tell you that if it's having a bill put in does not necessarily mean it's going to pass. It's a long process, and sometimes it takes years to be able to get things done. But you have to be persistent and be passionate. That's the big thing. Be passionate in what you believe in and speak up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kid Governor Makhi has our next question.
Our next question was submitted by fifth graders in Enfield. They would like all three of our guests to answer the question. How does your branch work with the other two branches?
That's an easy question for me to answer. I depend on and serve the other branches. So as I mentioned earlier, I represent the state and everyone in state government in their official capacity. And so if there's a legal issue that affects the judicial branch, the judges, or the legislative branch, I represent them as their lawyer. I provide opinions to the legislature, sometimes when they ask for my legal opinion, and then I enforce the laws that the legislature instructs me to enforce. And so, for example, all the work I talked about protecting all of you, a lot of that is consumer protection work, and that flows from a series of laws that give me the authority to enforce our state's consumer protection laws on behalf of the state, and the legislature commands me to do that. I also go to the legislature to say, hey, I could do more if you gave me this authority or that authority, or maybe you don't need to give me this authority and somebody else is better suited to do that. I also, of course, appear before the judges at all levels in our state system, at the Superior Court, and then the Appellate Court and the Supreme Court. I also appear before federal courts. I had an argument before one of the highest courts in our country, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, on Wednesday in a case affecting our state and defending state officials. So I'm very much engaged with their work, and I engage with the other branches every single day.
The legislature makes the laws, but it's with considerable input from the other branches, from the executive branch and from the judicial branch. And we always consider how that, any of the legislation impacts those branches as well. And they don't technically have bills. I mean, the governor can have bills introduced, but it's something that the legislature actually has to go through. We actually deal with the making of the laws while the executive has some authority through the veto power of the governor if it does not meet what they believe is for the best of the state of Connecticut. And we also have the power to approve and not approve both executive and judicial nominations. So there's a lot of back and forth between the three branches.
Thank you. Yes, as an independent branch, probably our primary relationship with the Attorney General's office, other than we get intimately involved, we have sometimes people sue us for various things, and the Attorney General is kind enough to represent us on those suits. That's right. Also, many times, the Attorney General's office will, as General Tong mentioned, will be in front of us on different cases, either representing a state agency or various state agencies. So in that respect, we do have probably more contact with the Attorney General's office. The legislative is directly involved with us, as indicated, for our reappointment process and the initial appointment process. As I mentioned before, we have to go before the legislature. If you're already a judge, you must go every 8 years to be reappointed as a judge. And the Judiciary Committee asks you questions, and then they hopefully recommend you to the General Assembly to vote. So we're voted on every 8 years, and that's primarily our relationship with the legislative branch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cabinet Member Bryan has our next question.
Fifth graders at Nathan Hale Arts Magnet School in New London submitted our next question. It is about the legislative branch and is for Representative Zawistowski. They ask, what do you do when you disagree with other legislators about something?
The question is about whether or not what happens when we disagree with the other legislators. And that happens often. We don't always agree on anything, and it's not always by party. We are not Congress. We get along much better than Congress. You cannot actually it's very difficult to try to get anything passed in the state, any laws passed, without having cooperation on both sides of the aisle. We develop friendships in the committee process. Our committees are comprised of both members of both parties, and also we have what's called a bicameral committee process, which means we have both Senate and House in there. So we work together a lot. I mean, I spent some time as ranking member on the Planning and Development Committee back a couple of years ago, and you sit down across the table from other people on the committee and just work out what bills we think are best for the state of Connecticut. And sometimes it's disagreements, so you talk about it. And if something gets through that I don't like, I'm free to bring it up on the House floor before a vote comes up. But it's all done respectfully. It's all done there's a very prescribed manner for floor debate. And it's a good process. It works for us. You don't have the kind of backbiting and stuff that you see at a lot of the political posturing that you see on a national level. A lot of us, we just like each other. So it doesn't matter. We're friends. We're all serving the public, and that's the important thing. We all keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Elizabeth will ask our next question.
Students at Pulaski Elementary School in Meriden submitted the next question. It is about the executive branch, and it is for Attorney General Tong. The students would like to know, what was your favorite subject in school, and did it help you in your role in government?
So it won't come as a surprise. I loved 7th grade civics, and I think I did US government in 11th grade. And with all due respect to legislators who aren't lawyers, I thought it was really important to go to law school before I became a legislator. I served in the legislature for 12 years, the last 4 as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And I don't think I could have done that job had I not had training as a lawyer and understood how a bill becomes law and have a deeper understanding of law and the legal process. And of course, that is a big part of what I do every day now. The one thing I would say also is getting to this point now as Attorney General and having the tremendous honor of being the chief legal officer in the state, I can't imagine doing this job without having all of my previous jobs. So working as a lawyer in private practice, serving in the legislature, serving as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, all of that was necessary for me to be able to do this job. And so I think, if you think about your own academic path and your dreams and what you want to do in high school and in college, think about how that's all going to accumulate together, all of that experience and all that knowledge to set you up to do whatever your dream is.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Madelyn has our next question.
Students at the Shepherd Gen Elementary School in Hammond submitted this next question for Judge Eveleigh about the judicial, sorry if I say it wrong, judicial branch, and they want to know, what's the hardest decision you've ever had to make?
Thank you. As I mentioned before, I sat on juvenile court for 5 years, which was very challenging. We deal with all types of issues. And many times we have to face questions whether or not children should be taken from their families for various reasons. So I had a case many years ago, over 20 now, where a woman had just had a baby. The baby was 6 weeks old. She also had another child who was 5 years old, a son. And the baby was a baby daughter. And she took the baby to the pediatrician for a routine visit 6 weeks after birth. And the doctor was looking at the child and said, something doesn't look right here. I want you to go right to Danbury Hospital for x-rays. And the mother did, took the child up, and it turned out that most of the bones in the baby's body were broken. So the department, the hospital obviously is a mandated reporter. They reported the incident to the Department of Children and Families at the time. And they removed the children from the parents. So I had the trial ultimately of whether or not the family should stay together or the children should be removed. So there were 10 doctors that testified, some very eminent doctors for the state and privately. They all looked at the same exact x-rays. 5 of the doctors for the state said that these were recent fractures while the baby was alive. The other 5 doctors said that no, these were healing fractures that had occurred during childbirth. They also had the doctor who delivered the baby. And that doctor said that in 35 years of being an obstetrician, this was the most difficult delivery he ever had. The baby was stuck in the canal for a long period, longer than he had ever had anyone stuck, and that he tried everything until finally he had to exert tremendous pressure to pull the baby out. So the question was, with all these eminent doctors pointing to the same thing, saying, you see that, Judge? That's a healing fracture. And the other one say, see that, Judge? That's a very recent fracture. I'm going, well. But for a family case, the burden of proof to remove children or terminate parental rights is what's called clear and convincing evidence. And many times as judges, we have to look at what the standard is before we make a decision. So I had to review that standard, clear and convincing. And to me, I was also very impressed with one doctor from New York City. He was one of the great witnesses I've ever had. I couldn't find clear and convincing, so I returned the children to their parents. But as a judge, particularly in juvenile court, dealing with children, you want to make sure you don't make a mistake. So I can tell you every year since then, till the children are now, age of majority, I checked to see if there were any further problems, and there were not, and both children ended up in college, and everything was fine with the family. But that was the hardest case, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Cabinet Member Olivia will give our next question.
Our next question is from the fifth graders at Noah Webster Micro Society Magnet School in Hartford. It is for Attorney General Tong about the executive branch. The students ask, what is the most important thing you have accomplished?
Oh, what is the most important thing I've accomplished? Every single day I am grateful for the opportunity to do this work and to represent all of you. I can't say that we ever conclude our work or that any case is ever really done. As Judge Eveleigh said, he made this really difficult decision where, as I said earlier, there weren't any clear answers. And he checks on them every single year to make sure that he made the right decision. I'm in the middle of a really tough battle right now over the opioid and addiction crisis. And I've sued a family called the Sackler family, who own a company called Purdue Pharma. And they're based in Stamford, Connecticut. And it's my view and the view of many people in our state and across the country and victims and survivors and people who struggle with addiction that Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers really played a pivotal role in starting the opioid and addiction crisis, selling pills to people as medicine that were highly addictive and then misrepresenting how addictive those pills are and how damaging it can be for people who become addicted to those pills and their families. We've lost a lot of people and a lot of people have died. Right now, in this case, it's the opposite of having accomplished something. Right now, in this case, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen going forward. I just won a big decision in federal court to stop the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma from getting away with a lot of their misconduct. But this case is going to go on for a long time and for years and years and years. But what I guess I'm most proud of is, even though we haven't resolved the case, we haven't accomplished anything yet, I get to fight every single day for victims and survivors and people who struggle with addiction. And that's a very meaningful fight, not just for me and the people in my office, but for the people of the state and the people that struggle and suffer so much. And that's a really important reason to get up in the morning.
Thank you very much. Before we ask our next question, Attorney General Tong has to leave us for another meeting, but let's give him a round of applause to thank him for participating. And Cabinet Member Samantha will ask our next.
Fifth graders at Shepherd Glen Elementary School in Hamden submitted our next question. It is for Representative Zawistowski about the legislative branch. They asked, what kind of laws are you working on right now? Are there any that will affect recess in schools?
Actually, a couple of years ago, I did introduce a bill making sure that kids had recess in school. The Department of Education said that they already have it. It's not, that they have no plans on taking it out, but I wanted to make sure that was important because a break during the day for students is incredibly important. nothing else, for maybe physical exercise, or just in time to take a little bit of a break from their studies. Perhaps now with the last year being a little bit more remote learning, it doesn't seem as important. But if you're in a school all day, it's physically there. It's important to be able to just get out, take a break, and also just talk to your friends. You know, just get away from math class for a while, or from English, and just be able to chill out a little bit. No, I absolutely support having recess in schools, and certainly would not change that a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Satvik will have our final question.
Next is a question about the judicial branch for Judge Eveleigh. It comes from the fifth graders at Eveleigh Elementary School in Waterford. They asked, how do you remember all the previous laws when doing your job?
Thank you. Well, fortunately, a lot of our job involves research into laws and writing opinions after we've heard evidence. So we get time to look up the laws and check before we start writing. Probably the only thing, or one of the few things I can think of, that we have to make immediate decisions comes in trial and ruling on evidence. In law school, we took evidence courses. We've taken various seminars on evidence, so that for the most part, when someone objects, we'll make a ruling on evidence. And it's not uncommon maybe to, if you have a full trial during a full day, you know, in Waterbury, I used to go sometimes 9 to 5 with a break of an hour and lunch. It wouldn't be uncommon to have maybe 50 to 100 rulings on evidence each day. But you kind of have the feeling, I'm not saying they were all right, hopefully a lot of them were, but you have a feeling of, you know, what evidence should come in to a trial and what should be left out. Other than that, we do have a lot of time, and we have even more time on the appellate court when we're writing opinions to get everything together and listen to the opinions of your colleagues and get opinions out. But on the trial bench, what we really have to know is the rules of evidence. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And please welcome Kid Governor Makhi Ettienne-Modeste back to the podium to conclude our educational program.
That was our last question for the Meet the Three Branches of State Government. Thank you to Attorney General Tong, Representative Zawistowski, and Judge Eveleigh. Let's give them a big round of applause. And thank you to the many fifth grade classes that submitted their questions today. You had some great questions. As Inauguration Day comes to an end, I would like to thank you all for joining us and for showing support for my cabinet and me as your leaders for 2022. We are going to need all your help this year to accomplish our platforms, and we hope we can count on you. I will now pass our program over to Mr. Cease from the Connecticut Democracy Center.
Thank you, Makhi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Cofrancesco, and I'm the head of the Kid Governor program here at the Connecticut Democracy Center at Connecticut's Old State House. I'd like to ask for one more round of applause, but not just for our special guests, but also for Makhi and his cabinet members who so expertly asked our questions today. Let's give them all a round of applause. This was really such a great conversation today, and it showed the passion and dedication of just some of our incredible state leaders. We are so lucky that across all three branches of government, our officials are so willing to speak with young people, especially fifth graders. And to our fifth graders who are watching us online, maybe you will serve in one of these roles one day. Our state will need strong and committed leaders and you are the future of Connecticut. To the teachers who are in the room today or watching online, thank you for being such enthusiastic civics educators and participants in the Kid Governor program. This program would not be possible without your dedication to teaching civics and commitment to giving your students authentic learning experiences. Please be in touch to share your feedback on Inauguration Day and let us know what your students liked most. To the adults who are here in the room or tuning in online, be sure to visit ct.kidgovernor.org or find us on social media to learn more about the Kid Governor program and to follow Kid Governor Makhi and his cabinet's 2022 term. If you're watching from another state, visit our national website, kidgovernor.org, to learn how you can help bring this program to your state. In closing, thank you to all of the officials, special guests, family members, teachers, and others who've been here with us at Connecticut's Old State House today or watching online to celebrate Inauguration Day 2022. And a special thanks to our staff and volunteers and advisory committee who work behind the scenes to make the Kid Governor program and Inauguration Day a reality. Congratulations once again to your 2022 Kid Governor, Makhi Ettienne-Modeste, and to his cabinet. Best of luck to all of you this year. Thank you.